How does wearing the wrong dress to the wrong club become the moment my marriage unravels in public? What began as a secret night out ended with legal papers in my hand, my family divided, and my reputation in tatters. Can I still call myself the victim when the outcome is exactly what I provoked? The red dress hung in our closet like a confession waiting to happen. I'd bought it 3 months ago during lunch break, hidden it behind my work blazers, and told myself it was for someday. Tonight felt like someday. "You're really wearing that to Lila's?" Patrick asked from the bathroom doorway, toothbrush in hand. His reflection caught mine in the dresser mirror. Him in his faded pajama pants, me in scarlet silk that hugged every curve I'd forgotten I had. "What's wrong with it?" I smoothed the fabric over my hips, watching how it transformed me from Idalia the office administrator into someone worth looking at twice. "Nothing's wrong with it, it's just—" He paused, that careful way he always did when he knew his words might start a fight. "It's a lot for a quiet night with your sister." I turned to face him, letting irritation sharpen my voice. "A lot? What exactly are you trying to say, Patrick?" "I'm not trying to say anything." He retreated into the bathroom, and I heard the faucet running. "Just seems fancy for Lila's couch and Netflix." That's the thing about being married for 8 years. You learn to hear what isn't said. Patrick wasn't worried about the dress being too fancy. He was worried about me wanting to be fancy at all. When had I become the kind of woman who only dressed up for other people's approval? When had my own husband stopped noticing if I made an effort? I grabbed my phone and texted Lila. "Still okay if I use your place as cover tonight?" Her response came immediately. "I guess, but Idalia, are you sure about this?" My fingers flew across the screen. "I need this. I feel invisible." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "Just be careful." I slipped on my heels, the black ones with the ankle straps that made my legs look endless, and checked myself one more time. The woman in the mirror looked dangerous. She looked like someone who had secrets worth keeping. Patrick emerged from the bathroom as I was grabbing my purse. "What time will you be home?" "Not too late. Lila's been having a rough time since the breakup, you know." The lie rolled off my tongue so smoothly it scared me. "She needs girl talk and wine." He nodded, already reaching for his book on the nightstand. "Tell her I said hi." "I will." I kissed his cheek, tasting toothpaste and the faint scent of his aftershave. For a moment, guilt twisted in my stomach. This was Patrick, loyal, steady Patrick, who had never given me a real reason to doubt him, who still made me coffee every morning and asked about my day every evening. But steady had started feeling like stagnant, and I couldn't remember the last time he'd looked at me the way strangers used to. "Love you," he mumbled, already absorbed in his book. "Love you too." The words felt hollow as they left my mouth. 20 minutes later, I was standing outside Onyx, the city's newest upscale club. The bass line thrummed through the sidewalk into my heels, and the line of people waiting to get in looked like a catalogue of beautiful, desperate people just like me. The bouncer barely glanced at my ID before waving me through, and I felt a thrill I hadn't experienced in years. Inside, Onyx was everything Patrick would hate. Loud, dark, full of people half our age grinding against each other like the world was ending. The bar stretched along one wall, backlit bottles creating a rainbow of possibilities. I ordered a cosmopolitan, something I hadn't drunk since college, and let the vodka burn away the last of my hesitation. That's when I saw him. He was leaning against the far end of the bar, tall and broad-shouldered in a way that made my mouth go dry. Dark hair, darker eyes, and a smile that suggested he knew exactly what effect he had on women. When our eyes met across the crowded room, he raised his glass in a small salute. I should have looked away, should have finished my drink and called a cab home to Patrick and our quiet house and our predictable life. Instead, I smiled back. He made his way through the crowd like he owned the place, never breaking eye contact. "I'm Marcus," he said, When he reached me, his voice pitched low enough that I had to lean in to hear him. Idalia. My name sounded exotic in this place, nothing like the way Patrick said it during grocery lists and dinner plans. Beautiful name for a beautiful woman. It was a terrible line, the kind that should have made me roll my eyes. Instead, it made me feel like I was 25 again, like I was someone worth terrible lines. "Can I buy you another drink?" Marcus asked, nodding toward my empty glass. I should have said no, should have explained that I was married, that I was just having one drink before heading to my sister's place. Instead, I heard myself say, "I'd like that." The second Cosmopolitan went down easier than the first. Marcus told me he worked in marketing, traveled a lot, was in town for just a few days. I told him I worked in logistics, left out the part about the husband and daughter waiting at home. We talked about nothing important, favorite movies, worst jobs, places we wanted to travel, but his attention felt like sunlight after a long winter. "Dance with me," he said when the DJ switched to something slow and sultry. The dance floor was packed, bodies moving together in the dim light. Marcus pulled me close, his hand settling on my waist, and I let myself melt into him. When was the last time Patrick had danced with me? When was the last time anyone had held me like I was precious and dangerous at the same time? Marcus's hands were warm through the thin fabric of my dress. He smelled like expensive cologne and possibility. When he pulled me closer, I didn't resist. When his lips brushed my ear as he whispered something I couldn't hear over the music, I shivered and pressed closer. I was so lost in the moment, in feeling wanted, feeling alive, that I didn't notice the familiar face at the bar. Didn't see Tom, Patrick's best friend from high school, watching with wide eyes as Marcus's hand slid down my back. Didn't see him pull out his phone. My own phone buzzed in my purse. I ignored it, too caught up in the fantasy of being someone else, someone who wore red dresses to dark clubs and let strange men buy her drinks and touch her like she was worth touching. The phone buzzed again, and again. Finally, breathless and dizzy from the alcohol and attention, I pulled it out. 3 text messages from Tom. "Is that you at Onyx?" "Idalia, what are you doing?" "You sure you're at Lila's?" The blood drained from my face. I looked up, scanning the bar, and there he was, Tom, Patrick's friend Tom, holding his phone up like he was taking pictures. Our eyes met across the dance floor, and I saw the disappointment and shock written all over his face. He shook his head slowly, pocketed his phone, and headed for the exit. "Everything okay?" Marcus asked, his hand still on my waist. I wanted to run after Tom, to explain somehow, but what could I possibly say? Instead, I looked up at Marcus, this beautiful stranger who had made me feel like myself again, and realized I had just destroyed everything. "I have to go," I whispered, but it was already too late. I woke up with a pounding headache and the taste of regret in my mouth. The red dress lay crumpled on the floor where I'd stepped out of it at 2 a.m., trying to be quiet as I crept into bed beside Patrick's sleeping form. Now, in the harsh light of morning, it looked like evidence. Patrick was already up, making coffee in the kitchen. I could hear him moving around, the familiar sounds of our morning routine. Emilie's cartoon show played softly from the living room. Everything was exactly as it should be, except for the sick feeling in my stomach that had nothing to do with too many cosmopolitans. I pulled on my robe and tried to practice my story in the mirror. Food poisoning. That's what I'd tell him if he asked why I came home early, why I looked pale and shaky. Lila had made fish, and it must have been off. "Morning," Patrick said when I shuffled into the kitchen. He didn't look up from his phone, just slid a cup of coffee across the counter to me. "Morning." I wrapped my hands around the mug, grateful for the warmth. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep." His voice was flat, emotionless, still not looking at me. A chill that had nothing to do with the morning air ran down my spine. "Everything okay?" Finally, he looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed, like he'd been awake for hours. "How was Lila's?" The question hung in the air between us, loaded with meaning I wasn't ready to face. It was fine. We watched movies, talked. You know how it is. Do I? He set his coffee down with careful precision. Because I got an interesting call last night, around midnight. My heart stopped. Oh? From Tom? Patrick's voice was deadly quiet. He wanted to know if everything was okay at home. Seemed to think he saw you somewhere you weren't supposed to be. I forced a laugh, but it came out shaky and false. Tom? What would Tom know about where I was? I was at Lila's all evening. Were you? Patrick finally looked directly at me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Not anger. That would have been easier to handle. This was worse. This was disappointment so deep it looked like grief. Of course I was. Patrick, what's this about? Are you having me followed or something? I tried to inject some righteous indignation into my voice, but it fell flat. He pulled his phone from his pocket and set it on the counter between us. The screen was black, but it sat there like a loaded gun. Patrick, you're scaring me. What's going on? Instead of answering, he picked up the phone and tapped the screen. Then he turned it around so I could see. The photo hit me like a physical blow. There I was, unmistakably me, in the red dress that was currently lying on our bedroom floor. Marcus's arms were around my waist, his face close to mine, my body pressed against his like we were lovers instead of strangers. The timestamp showed 11:47 p.m. The location tag read, Onyx nightclub. I stared at the image, my mind racing for explanations, excuses, anything that could make this not be what it obviously was. But there was no denying it, no spinning it, no explaining it away. Who is he? Patrick's voice was barely above a whisper. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. What could I possibly say? That Marcus was nobody, that it meant nothing, that I was just having a moment of weakness, a desperate grab for the attention my own husband had stopped giving me. Idalia. Patrick's voice was stronger now, demanding. Who is he? I started, then stopped. It's not what it looks like. It looks like my wife, who told me she was spending the evening with her sister, dancing with another man in a nightclub. His hands were shaking now, and I realized this quiet, steady man I'd married was holding on to his composure by a thread. So please, explain to me what it actually is. Patrick, I can explain. Then explain. He slammed his hand on the counter, making me jump. In 8 years of marriage, I'd never seen him lose his temper like this. Explain why you lied to me. Explain why you're dressed like that with some stranger's hands all over you. Explain why my best friend had to call me at midnight to ask if my marriage was falling apart. Tears started streaming down my face, but they felt calculated, strategic. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake, a stupid mistake. I felt invisible, Patrick. When was the last time you really looked at me? When was the last time you touched me like you wanted me? Don't. His voice was ice cold. Don't you dare try to make this my fault. I'm not. I'm just trying to explain. You're trying to justify cheating on me by blaming me for not paying you enough attention. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Jesus, Idalia. I work 2 jobs to keep us afloat. I come home every night. I've never so much as looked at another woman since the day we met. But because I don't compliment your dress enough, you think that gives you the right to go find someone who will. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? He grabbed the phone, staring at the photo again. Because this looks pretty fucking clear to me. I'd never heard Patrick use that word before, never seen him look at me with such disgust. The man in front of me was a stranger, and I realized I had turned him into one. Daddy? Emilie appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Why are you yelling? The fight went out of Patrick immediately. He knelt down to her level, his voice gentle again. Sorry, sweetheart. Daddy and Mommy were just having a discussion. Why don't you go get dressed for school? She looked between us with 7-year-old wisdom that saw too much. Are you and Mommy fighting? We're just talking, baby, I said, my voice thick with tears. Everything's fine. But Emilie looked at me like she didn't believe me, like she could see the lie written all over my face. She hugged her rabbit tighter and ran back to her room. Patrick stood up slowly, suddenly looking older than his 36 years. "Pack a bag." "What?" "Pack a bag. I want you out of here by the time I get home from school today." "Patrick, please, we can work through this." "Can we?" He picked up his keys from the counter. "Because right now, I can't even look at you without seeing that photo. I can't think about anything except my wife in another man's arms, lying to my face about where she was." "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't care. Go to Lila's. For real this time." He paused at the kitchen door. "I'm taking Emilie to school, then I'm going to work. When I get home at 4, I want you gone. We'll figure out the rest later." "Patrick, wait." But he was already gone, calling for Emilie to get her backpack. I heard them leave together, the front door closing with a finality that echoed through the house. I was alone with my coffee, my hangover, and the wreckage of my marriage. My phone buzzed. A text from Lila. Mom called. She heard from Evelyn that something happened. "Are you okay?" Then another from my mother. "Lila says you need to talk. Call me." And another from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Tom. We need to talk before this gets worse." I stared at the messages, realizing that my moment of selfish indulgence had set off a chain reaction I couldn't control. The photo wasn't just between Patrick and me anymore. It was spreading through our families, our social circle, our carefully constructed life. I looked at the red dress on the bedroom floor and wondered if 15 minutes of feeling desired was worth losing everything. But even as I asked myself the question, I wasn't sure I was ready to face the answer. Lila's apartment felt like a safe house, but the safety was an illusion. She opened the door wearing yesterday's clothes and the expression of someone who hadn't slept, and I knew the fallout had already begun. "Jesus, Idalia, what were you thinking?" She didn't even say hello, just stepped aside to let me in with my hastily packed suitcase. "Hello to you too." I tried for lightness, but it fell flat in the heavy atmosphere of her living room. "Don't." She turned to face me, and I saw something I'd never seen in my younger sister's eyes before: disappointment. "Don't try to joke your way out of this. Do you have any idea what you've done?" I set my suitcase down and looked around her apartment. It was exactly as I'd described it to Patrick last night. Cozy couch, Netflix queued up on the TV, wine glasses in the sink, the perfect setting for the lie I'd told. "It was one night, Lila. One stupid mistake. One stupid mistake that's all over social media." She grabbed her phone from the coffee table and showed me the screen. Tom sent the photo to 3 people before midnight. Those 3 people sent it to others. By this morning, half of Patrick's school had seen it. My stomach dropped. His school? Teachers talk, Idalia. They have group chats. They share gossip just like everyone else. She scrolled through what looked like a Facebook thread. "Someone recognized you from the faculty Christmas party." I sank onto her couch, the full scope of my destruction finally hitting me. It wasn't just my marriage I'd damaged. It was Patrick's professional reputation, our daughter's stability, our family's standing in the community. "What are people saying?" Lila's expression softened slightly, but not much. "What do you think they're saying? That Patrick's wife was caught cheating, that he's either a fool who didn't know or a weakling who couldn't keep his woman satisfied. That's not fair to him. No, it's not." She sat down across from me. "None of this is fair to him, or to Emilie, or to me for that matter." "You? How does this affect you?" "Because I'm the sister who supposedly hosted your girls' night. Because people are asking if I knew, if I helped you cover it up." Her voice rose. "Because I did help you cover it up, and now I look like an accomplice in destroying a good man's marriage." Guilt crashed over me in waves. In my selfish pursuit of validation, I dragged Lila into my mess. "I'm sorry. I never meant for you to get involved." "But I am involved. We all are now." She rubbed her temples. "Mum's been calling all morning. She's beside herself, and Evelyn, Patrick's mother. I'd forgotten about Evelyn in the chaos of the morning. What about Evelyn? She called Mom at 6 a.m. Apparently, Tom's wife told her sister, who told her mother, who goes to the same church as Evelyn. Lila's laugh was bitter. Small-town networks are faster than the internet. What did she say? What do you think she said? That you're a whore who never deserved her son, that she always knew you were trouble, that Patrick should have listened to her from the beginning. The words hit like slaps, but I couldn't deny they were probably accurate quotes. Evelyn had never liked me, had never thought I was good enough for her precious son. Now she had proof. I need to call Patrick, I said, reaching for my phone. He's not answering. Lila's voice was flat. I tried earlier to apologize for my part in this. It went straight to voicemail. I tried anyway. Straight to voicemail, just like she'd said. I didn't leave a message. What could I possibly say? My phone rang in my hands. Mom's contact photo filled the screen, a smiling picture from last Christmas, when everything was normal and intact. Hi, Mom. Idalia Sophia Voss Rowan, what have you done? My mother only used my full name when I was in serious trouble. I was 33 years old, but her tone still made me feel like a child caught stealing cookies. Mom, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain to me why Evelyn Rowan called me at dawn to tell me my daughter is a cheating whore who destroyed her son's life? I flinched. Hearing those words in my mother's voice was worse than anything Evelyn could have said directly. It's not that simple. Then make it simple for me, Mija, because right now it looks very simple. It looks like you threw away a good marriage for one night with a stranger. Patrick hasn't been paying attention to me for months, I said, falling back on the justification that had gotten me into this mess. I felt invisible in my own marriage. The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Mom, are you there? I'm here. Her voice was cold. I'm just trying to understand how I raised a daughter who thinks feeling ignored gives her the right to betray her family. Mom, that's exactly what you're saying. You're saying that because Patrick didn't compliment you enough, didn't pay you enough attention, you had the right to go find it somewhere else. I didn't sleep with him, I said desperately. It was just dancing, just conversation. Just lies, Mom shot back. Just betrayal. Just destruction of everything you've built with a good man who loves you. Loved, I corrected quietly. Past tense. And whose fault is that? I didn't have an answer. I'm disappointed in you, Idalia. More disappointed than I've ever been. Her voice broke slightly. That poor little girl. What is this going to do to Emilie? That was the question I'd been avoiding all morning. What would I tell my 7-year-old daughter about why Mommy wasn't living at home anymore? How could I explain that I'd chosen one night of feeling special over her stable, happy family? I'm going to fix this, I said, though I had no idea how. Are you? How do you fix betrayal, Mija? How do you fix broken trust? I don't know, but I have to try. Maybe you should have thought about that before you put on that dress. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. Lila was watching me with a mixture of pity and anger. My mother was disappointed in me. My husband wasn't taking my calls. My daughter was probably confused and scared. And somewhere in the city, people I'd never met were looking at a photo of me in another man's arms and making judgments about my character, my marriage, my worth as a person. I need to go see Patrick, I said. He's at work, Idalia. You can't just show up at his school. Then I'll wait until he gets home. He changed the locks. I stared at her. What? Tom called me an hour ago. Patrick asked him to help change the locks on the house. You can't just go home and wait for him. The reality of my situation was starting to sink in. I wasn't just staying at Lila's for a night or two while Patrick cooled off. I was locked out of my own home, cut off from my own life. What about my things, my clothes? Tom said he'd pack some bags for you. Patrick will let you know when you can pick them up. I felt like I was disappearing, being erased from the life I'd built. This is insane. It's my house too. My name is on the mortgage. And your picture is in another man's arms, Lila said bluntly. You don't get to play the victim here, Idalia. You made this choice. I made a mistake. You made a series of choices. You chose to buy that dress. You chose to lie to Patrick. You chose to go to that club. You chose to dance with that man. You chose to let him touch you. Her voice was getting louder with each accusation. Don't minimize this by calling it a mistake. Mistakes are accidents. This was deliberate. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, to explain that it hadn't felt deliberate in the moment. It had felt like drowning and finally finding air. But looking at my sister's face, seeing the disappointment and anger there, I realized that my explanations didn't matter anymore. The damage was done. The photo existed. The trust was broken, and I was the one who had broken it. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Patrick's lawyer. We need to schedule a meeting. Are you available tomorrow at 2 p.m.? I showed the message to Lila and watched the last bit of sympathy drain from her face. He hired a lawyer, she whispered. Apparently. Idalia, what are you going to do? I looked around her apartment, this temporary refuge that was starting to feel like a prison, and realized I had no idea. I don't know, I admitted. I really don't know. The coffee shop on 5th Street had always been our place, Patrick's and mine. We'd had our first date there 9 years ago, celebrated my promotion there, brought Emilie there for hot chocolate on Saturday mornings. Now I sat alone at our usual table, waiting for a meeting I was dreading, surrounded by the ghosts of happier times. Tom arrived exactly on time, looking like he'd aged 5 years in the past 3 days. He spotted me immediately, but took his time ordering coffee, probably gathering his courage for a conversation neither of us wanted to have. Idalia. He sat down across from me, his expression carefully neutral. Tom. I wrapped my hands around my latte, grateful for something to do with them. Thank you for meeting me. I'm not sure this is a good idea. He glanced around the coffee shop like he was afraid someone might see us together. Patrick doesn't know I'm here. I just need to understand what's happening. He won't take my calls, won't answer my texts. I feel like I'm in the dark about my own life. Tom's jaw tightened. Your own life? Idalia, do you have any idea what you've put him through? I know I hurt him. Hurt him? Tom's voice rose. Then he caught himself and lowered it again. You destroyed him. I've known Patrick since we were 14 years old, and I have never seen him like this. Guilt twisted in my stomach, but I pushed it aside. I needed information, not another lecture. What's he telling people? About us? About the separation? He's not telling people anything. He doesn't have to. The photo is telling the story for him. I flinched. How many people have seen it? How many people do you know? Tom's expression was hard. It's been shared in at least 6 different group chats that I know of. Someone posted it on Facebook before taking it down. Half the teachers at Patrick's school have seen it. Parents are talking about it at pickup. The scope of my public humiliation was expanding by the hour. What are they saying? What do you think they're saying? That Patrick's wife is a cheater, that he's either a fool or a failure as a husband. Tom leaned forward, his voice intense. Do you understand what this is doing to his career? Parents don't want their kids taught by someone they see as weak or unstable. The principal called him in yesterday to discuss the situation. I felt sick. Patrick's job, his reputation, his professional relationships, all collateral damage from my moment of selfish indulgence. I never meant for it to go this far, I whispered. What did you mean for it to do? Tom's question was sharp. What was the end game here, Idalia? You put on a dress that screamed, "Look at me," went to a club, and let a stranger put his hands all over you. What exactly were you trying to accomplish? I just wanted to feel alive again, feel desired, feel like I mattered. You mattered to Patrick, you mattered to Emilie, but apparently that wasn't enough for you. His words hit like physical blows, but I forced myself to stay focused. Is he really going through with the divorce? What choice did you give him? You lied to his face, cheated on him in public, and got caught. Did you think he'd just forgive and forget? People work through infidelity all the time. This wasn't just infidelity. This was public humiliation. This was you making him look like a fool in front of everyone he knows. Tom's voice was getting louder again. His mother called him crying. His students are whispering in the hallways. His colleagues are looking at him with pity. I thought about Evelyn, Patrick's proud, proper mother, and how this scandal must be killing her. She'd never liked me, but she loved her son fiercely. Knowing that I'd caused him public embarrassment would be unforgivable in her eyes. What about Emilie? How is she handling this? Tom's expression softened slightly. She's confused. She knows something's wrong, but Patrick's trying to protect her from the details. He's telling her that Mommy and Daddy need some time apart to figure things out. I want to see her. That's between you and Patrick, and probably the lawyers now. The reminder of legal proceedings sent a chill through me. Tom, I need you to talk to him. Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I want to fix this. No. Tom stood up abruptly. I'm not getting in the middle of this any more than I already am. You want to talk to Patrick? Find a way to do it yourself. But don't ask me to be your messenger. Please, Tom, you're his best friend. He'll listen to you. I'm his best friend, which is exactly why I won't help you manipulate him into taking you back. He grabbed his coffee cup. You made your choice, Idalia. Now live with the consequences. He walked away, leaving me alone with my cold latte and the stares of other customers who had recognized me. I could practically hear their thoughts. There she is, the cheater, the homewrecker, the woman who threw away a good marriage for one night with a stranger. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Evelyn wants to meet with you. Tonight at 7 at Romano's. She says it's important. Romano's was the Italian restaurant where Patrick and I had celebrated our anniversary every year. The irony wasn't lost on me that his mother wanted to meet me there, in the place that held some of our happiest memories. I typed back, I'll be there. Another text, this one from Lila. Mum told me about tonight. Are you sure you want to do this? Evelyn is furious. I wasn't sure about anything anymore, but I knew I had to face Patrick's mother eventually. Maybe if I could make her understand, get her on my side, she could help me repair the damage with Patrick. I have to try, I texted back. The rest of the day crawled by. I tried calling Patrick twice more, got voicemail both times. I drove past his school during lunch, hoping to catch a glimpse of him, but lost my nerve and kept driving. I went to the mall and bought a conservative dress for dinner, something that screamed repentant wife instead of scarlet woman. Romano's was busy for a Tuesday night, filled with couples sharing intimate dinners and families celebrating special occasions. I spotted Evelyn immediately. She sat ramrod straight in a corner booth, her silver hair perfectly styled, her expression glacial. Idalia. She didn't stand when I approached, didn't smile, didn't offer any of the usual pleasantries. Mrs. Rowan, thank you for meeting with me. Sit. It was a command, not an invitation. I slid into the booth across from her, acutely aware of the other diners around us. Some were stealing glances, probably recognizing me from the photo that had made me locally infamous. You look terrible, Evelyn observed. I haven't been sleeping well. Good, you shouldn't be sleeping well. You should be lying awake every night thinking about what you've done to my son. I deserve that, but it still stung. Mrs. Rowan, I know you're angry. Angry? Her voice was controlled, but I could see the fury burning in her eyes. Angry doesn't begin to cover what I'm feeling. You have humiliated my son in front of this entire town. You've made him a laughingstock. You've damaged his career and traumatized his child. I never meant... Don't. She held up a hand. Don't you dare tell me what you meant or didn't mean. You meant to put on that dress. You meant to lie to my son. You meant to go to that club and throw yourself at a stranger. The other diners were definitely listening now. Evelyn's voice wasn't loud, but it carried the kind of authority that commanded attention. I made a mistake. You made a choice, and now you're going to live with the consequences of that choice. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper that was somehow more menacing than shouting. I want you to stay away from my son. He's my husband. Not for much longer. Patrick has filed for divorce. He's seeking full custody of Emilie. The words hit me like a physical blow. Full custody. Patrick was trying to take my daughter away from me completely. He can't do that. I'm her mother. You're an unfit mother. What kind of mother lies to her family and goes out looking for strange men? Evelyn's smile was cold. What kind of example are you setting for that little girl? I love Emilie. I would never do anything to hurt her. You already have. You've destroyed her stable home. You've forced her father to explain why Mommy doesn't live with them anymore. Evelyn's voice cracked slightly, showing the first sign of emotion beyond anger. That child adores you, and you've broken her heart. Tears started streaming down my face, but I didn't care who saw them. The thought of losing Emilie, of my daughter growing up thinking I had abandoned her for a stranger, was unbearable. Please, Mrs. Rowan, help me fix this. Talk to Patrick for me. Fix this? Evelyn laughed, but there was no humor in it. You can't fix this, Idalia. You can't unfuck that man. You can't untake that photo. You can't undo the humiliation you've caused. The crude language sounded shocking coming from the proper, church-going woman I'd known for 8 years. You can't make people forget what they've seen, she continued. Every time Patrick walks into a room, people will remember that his wife preferred a stranger's hands to his. Every time someone looks at him, they'll wonder what's wrong with him, that his own wife went looking elsewhere. That's not fair to him, and it's not fair to me. Marriages have problems. People work through them. Not when those problems are displayed for the entire world to see. Evelyn stood up, her movements sharp and controlled. Stay away from my son, Idalia. Stay away from my granddaughter. Find yourself a good lawyer, because Patrick has one and he's going to make sure you pay for what you've done. She walked away, leaving me alone in the restaurant where Patrick and I had celebrated 8 years of anniversaries. The other diners were staring openly now, probably recognizing the drama for what it was. I sat there for another 20 minutes, crying into the breadbasket, before finally gathering the courage to leave. The drive back to Lila's apartment was a blur of tears and self-recrimination. When I walked through her door, she took one look at my face and poured me a glass of wine without saying a word. That bad? She asked. Worse. I told her about Evelyn's threats, about Patrick seeking full custody, about the scope of the gossip and humiliation. Idalia, maybe it's time to accept that you can't fix this, Lila said gently. Maybe it's time to focus on damage control instead of reconciliation. I can't give up. I can't lose my daughter. Then you need to get a lawyer, a good one, and you need to prepare yourself for a fight. I nodded, wiping my eyes with a tissue. I know, I never thought it would go this far. What did you think would happen? Lila's voice was gentle but honest. You got caught cheating in the most public way possible. In a small town like this, that kind of scandal doesn't just blow over. She was right. I had been living in a fantasy, thinking that one heartfelt apology and a promise to never do it again would be enough to repair the damage. But the damage was too extensive, too public, too humiliating for Patrick to simply forgive and forget. I had lost my marriage, my home, my reputation, and possibly my daughter. And the worst part was, I had no one to blame but myself.